Hey everybody, we're live for U.S. history, and I wanted to talk to you today about the test we're going to have tomorrow. It's going to be a test on a Google form, and I'll post it on Classroom, and you'll be able to just access the form and take the test. And that being that way, it's going to be mostly multiple choice. Not all of it. There are going to be some of your favorite relationship questions. You guys love that. And maybe a short answer. Hey, Caden. But it's not necessarily going to be the normal kind of test that we have because we're not having a normal kind of school year. So I would just like to talk about a few things that are going to be on it. I have my notes. But you should hopefully have your study guides. Not sure why I'm turning blue. If you don't have your study guides, that's going to be a challenge. But it's basically going to follow the study guide. We've already covered most of the material. The only thing we really hadn't covered was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we did that on the last assignment. Okay? So everything's kind of fair game. There are terms on the test I'm going to use based on the Quizlet, but they're the same terms that are in your study guide. So if you have the study guide, you should have everything you need. If you don't, the terms are on Quizlet. I posted those on Classroom. You can access them, and they give you the information you need, I hope. Okay? But if we look through the unit, it basically went through 3 stages. The beginning of the Cold War, the causes of the Cold War, right? How we went from being buddies with the Soviet Union to being enemies. If you remember, it all started out because the Soviet Union, United States, USSU, right, were opposites. We have lots of freedoms. They don't. They're a communist government that has a command economy. We're a free market system. We elect our officials. They don't really get to. Stuff like that. Okay. But things that started happening in Europe, like the Iron Curtain, if you remember that's not a real thing, right? It's what we called Stalin cutting off Europe or Eastern Europe from the rest of the world. And we didn't like that because it looked like he was trying to take over stuff. So we tried to stop him with things like the Truman Doctrine, the Marshall Plan. Those things gave aid to Western European nations to help avoid the spread of communism. If you remember that. It's been a while. It was pre-spring break, so we're talking like a month ago. But those things started forcing us to drift apart, and we really wanted to oppose communism with everything we had. An example of that was the Berlin Airlift, where instead of going to war, when Stalin closes off Berlin, we flew in supplies. Made Stalin look like a jerk, made us look pretty good. All right. Then we went into the Red Scare. And we had a Red Scare because the Soviet Union developed their own atomic bomb. We figured there must be spies, right? So there are 2 phases to that, right? The spy part, where we worried about spies being all over the place, like the Rosenbergs, like Alger Hiss. Okay. And Senator McCarthy from the great state of Wisconsin tried to hunt down communists, even though he sort of made stuff up. He didn't really have a list, claimed he did, right? So we went through that McCarthy era where everyone was sort of afraid to speak out against things and were accused of being communists if they said anything bad about the government or if they had friends that might be communists, et cetera, et cetera. The other part of it was the civil defense, things like duck and cover. Remember Bert the Turtle? Who can sing the song for me? Yeah, I can't hear you, so. But those are the things we went into afterwards, like preparing school kids in case there's an atomic bomb. We duck under a desk, cover our heads because that would save us. We also built fallout shelters. A lot of us built fallout shelters in our backyard, and we stocked them with food and materials. You did that in class. Okay? So that's the second stage that we're talking about there. The final part was the conflict. We talked about 2 big conflicts, the Korean War, which I just want you to know the basics of, right? That's in your study guide, where North Korea tried to invade South Korea. So we wanted to contain the spread of communism, so we sent troops. We pushed troops all the way back to the border with China, so China got mad at us. They came into the war and forced us back, and it stayed that way for another couple of years until we finally had a ceasefire. That was the Korean War. And the last thing we talked about was the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay, where we found through spy planes that the Soviet Union were building missile sites in Cuba, and we ordered a quarantine. Weird. Not a blockade, because a blockade's an act of war. So John F. Kennedy's like, oh, it's a quarantine. Okay. And in the end, we thought, this could lead to war, but the Soviet Union agreed to take missiles out of Cuba if we took missiles out of Turkey, and agreed not to attack. So that's the gist of the unit, and the test will really be all about the terms, the main ideas, those three big sections, the causes, the Red Scare, the conflicts. Short answer questions, if I do include them, or those relationship questions, will be geared towards those things. Okay? So if you have any questions, let me know on Classroom. Megan and Shelby are back. And Caden's upset, by the way, that NASCAR's canceled. It's supposed to be opening day of baseball season. What's the deal? Brooke Schlaker. Hi, Brooke. Kyle Klein. Eli's dying for a semi-ride, but this is not the time for it, apparently. Dakota's back. I actually have viewers. But just if you have any questions, let me know on Classroom. Otherwise, that's the test. Study the terms, study your study guide, and I'll post it tomorrow as a Google form. Do the best you can. And we'll talk to you later. Oh, Mrs. Cooley wanted me to tell Eli, who's standing right over here. Say hi, Eli.
Hi.
That she's watching. But this is a family affair here. I've got cats and people, and yeah, we got a sleeping cat over here in his cat stand. We got a chunky cat on the ground over here. Hi, Fia. She resents being called chunky. She's working on it. She's pleasingly plump. Okay, she's kind of fat. But all right. Any questions, let me know, and I hope this all works out, and you guys will do well, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Oh.